Well, hello. Welcome, community creative, kind folks out there. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Along with that is the first day of our deep dive into angels, celestials, the goodly winged uh, beings that we have in our generally fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons game. So we're going to talk about it all this week, and today is Monster Monday. So you got to start out with Monster Monday. We're going to talk about these creatures and using them in our role-playing games. So, of course, each day is a specific topic, whether it's Monster Monday, Tips and Tricks Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, and so on. But I thought this was a subject that was left in the Discord. I didn't get around to it as quickly as I wanted to, but I did want to say something about it. So we are now here. Now, let's begin this by saying, because we're going to talk about angels and celestials in general. And let's begin by saying that you can find, outside of the role-playing community, you can find a ton of information about angelic beings and celestials. And we know that in general, the angels and celestials that are used in Dungeons and Dragons do not line up with the actual religious and biblical versions of those. So understand that we are talking about the fantasy role-playing version of these creatures, not necessarily the historical ones. Although we can always use our little fingertips and Google foo our way into finding out a lot about these creatures and using them in our role-playing game. Now, there is one thing that what's going on here? Hey. Now, good morning, everyone. Fat Ninja DM. And Rickard, hello there. Now, one thing that we can say, we need to, when using these creatures, we need to start to dispel some of the tropes, some of the commonalities, and some of their usage, so that we can really get past the idea of including them in the game. So one of the things that unfortunately we as creators and we as the role-playing community, what we really don't want to do, and the trope that we fall into, is using good creatures as a deus ex machina, right? It's this powerful creature, far more with an ability to influence the world in a far greater. Oh, hey, thank you so much, man. Not necessary, but thank you so much. Fantasy Grounds College in the hizzy is in the house. Thank you so much, man. For those who don't know, Fantasy Grounds College is a location you can go to learn how to use Fantasy Grounds, which has been active. Now, I understand people talk about D&D Beyond, and they also talk about Roll20, but Fantasy Grounds is a place that you can go to for your virtual tabletop accoutrement. Now, if you want to learn how to use it and you want some you really need some background, you need an instructor or so, go to Fantasy Grounds College, and they have individuals there who will walk you through the basics of the game, of the system, to using your game and that kind of thing. And of course, we have ourselves an administrator, as it were. Oh man. So Deadman Storyteller says modern angels were made to look good based on medieval viewpoints. Prior to that, angels often looked very demonic. They sure did. And as a matter of fact, not only did they not just look demonic, but they really didn't even look human, right? Following Deadman's point, thought line, saying that they were basically, there was a default in Dungeons and Dragons to make them look very humanoid, beautiful, approachable, something anti-demonic and fiendish. And part of that impetus was to put something in the Dungeons and Dragons game that in some ways would appease the satanic panic that happened in the late 70s and early 80s in the game. So they kind of needed something to throw in there to like say, hey, no, we're not devil worshippers. They're actually good creatures that are fighting them. And here's some images of them. And don't they look nice and glowing and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you take a look at the descriptions in a historical context, a lot of celestial and angelic beings did not look human at all. Multiple wings, and it was like a nightmare image, something almost Cthulhuid-ish, if you will, something that would drive you crazy if you looked it directly in the eye. Yeah, yeah. At Fantasy Grounds, yeah, Fantasy Grounds College says, Fat Ninja DM is a teacher. Wait. Is that, are we talking two different individuals here? Well, hello. Yeah. Says they're sometimes stereotypically portrayed in many formats. Of course they are, and we kind of want to get away from those if we can, just so that we just so that we don't get ourselves stuck into a rut of using them in the same manner all the time. What do we got here? Sorry, just going through the chat moves quite a bit. Back up. There we are. All right, here we go. Yeah, Deadman Storyteller says WotC's making their artwork, Wizards of the Coast, is making their artwork of their angels look less angelic. And I believe that's probably due to the fact of the complaints that we already, I mean, just amongst us, we already know that the stereotypical loincloth Eurocentric angel is very myopic. It's like one specific type of being, as opposed to how they're used in the game, in which they are agents of the upper planes, the gods, the outer realm of goodness, and so that they should be able to apply to any and all of the beings that you have in your world. So, for one thing, we do know that in our own real world religions, that not every real world religion has angels or celestials in it. But yeah, Fantasy Ground says, yeah, let's do a little bit more due diligence, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because even Tesla Ranger says, but benevolent or not, these angels were full of nightmares. They didn't traditionally introduce themselves with "fear not" for nothing. Yeah. Now, one of the things that we can, when using them, of course, they are agents. They're avatars. They have. Oh, cool. By the way, and anyone who wants to join in these things, of course, in the chats while we go live, you cannot post. You guys cannot post links to like images or websites or anything. But if you join the Discord, and that information is located below the video, if you join the Discord, you of course can participate with all of the brilliant individuals that are a part of these live chats each day at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time that I go live where I'm at in the States. And again, by the way, thank you for the super chat. But Fantasy Grounds and Fantasy Grounds College is a place you can go where you might want to be able to utilize some of these angels and celestial beings. But I digress. Now, the celestial beings are commonly known as messengers and avatars and soldiers by use of the beings from the upper planes. Now, for those who don't know, in Dungeons and Dragons, it's commonly known that there are these outer planes, the outsiders, and these outer world planes correspond to a mode of thought, basically the alignment wheel, as it were. And that alignment wheel, 9 alignments plus space in between each of the alignments, if you want to go deeper, corresponds to different worlds. Their names, like they come from places like where's some names? We got a list up here. Twin Paradises, the Seven Heavens, the Land of Perfect Order, known as Arcadia, the Seven Heavens known as Mount Celestia, Nirvana, are also known as Mechanus. We're paging through some of these. Arborea, also known as Olympus or Olympus Glades, or Vandor, Happy Hunting Grounds, the Beastlands, Elysium, the Blessed Fields. So all these places are locations where you're when essentially where the gods live: neutral good, lawful good, chaotic good, and then any variation thereof along the goodly ones. There are these celestial beings that are there and sent on missions. Valhalla is a perfect one. Now, Dead Man brings up Valhalla, and I want to bring this up too, that if in your setting or your game you don't have classic angels, or you didn't want to have classic angels, but you still want to use them, um, we know that the Valkyrie, Valhalla, Norse mythology, you could. It's very easy to say that the Valkyries in Norse mythology correspond to angels in, say, Christian mythology, right? So, so a person with wings on and a flaming sword, and a woman, a warrior woman who takes away the dead, um, riding on the back of a Pegasus, isn't too much of a stretch to make one an angelic being versus another. You know, um, Fantasy Grounds College says the angels have also been considered the um Anu Anunnaki, aliens, or just supernatural representatives of higher forces, gatekeepers, messengers, protectors, a sign of the times, and other generic tropes. And you can absolutely basically reskin, rename, reuse your angelic beings as Fantasy Grounds says, that yeah, they're gatekeepers, they're messengers, they're ones. Now, of course, do you want to have them with wings or take the wings off of them? You can choose to do that. You can absolutely make them look demonic and pretty scary. I mean, if we really go down at this rabbit hole, we know that fiends are known as fallen angels. And although we think of ourselves with demons and devils and things with pitchforks and flaming whips and whatnot and bat wings, uh, if we really just take a look at it, it's like, well, maybe they don't look that much different, right? So who's to say that I don't know, the real difference between a demon and or a fiendish creature and an angel is pretty much where they live, not necessarily how they look. Maybe one of the angels might have like flaming wings or something like that, or their skin may turn like a dark pitch or something. Uh, but reflavoring that just a little bit of it might be pretty cool concept to think about. Now, how do we use them? This is the hard part. A lot of times, what happens is that when it comes to playing good and having good beings in the world, usually the difference is about perspective. It's not usually about motivation, it's about perspective. Let me give you an example. So let's get ourselves three individuals, going from your common farmer all the way up to a celestial being, and they are all good. They are motivated by goodness and justice. Well, the local farmer is motivated by good and justice, and his or her perspective is located within their community, 10, 15, 20 people. And so they are going to act in the best interests of good and justice within the 20 people surrounding their little small farming community. But you may have a local marshal, a person to protect the community of 500. And their same goodness is going to protect all 500 people. And as you start to ramp up the population and the scope of their protectorate, you're going to find that the larger the scope, the smaller the impact of the individual, and you get into this rationalization where some of the actions or byproduct of their actions may affect a larger group, although a small minority. That minority group starts growing larger and larger and larger in a population until it's very easy to perceive celestial beings as being just as evil as the evil beings they claim that they're trying to fight. Fantasy Grounds goes on and says this discussion can segue nicely into new settings that fall into the Avernus Descent setting. That's the new release. Absolutely. Ricker says the good of the many outweigh the good of the few, and mind you, that good of the many outweighing the good of the few is based on again based on your protectorate, your perspective, right? For example, a world leader of 8 million people is going to make decisions of what is right and wrong versus your local school teacher who's protecting 25 students, right? It's it depends on a police officer protecting a community of 5,000 is going to make a different decision than let's say the governor who's over 500,000. And as you start to ramp up the populations and ramp up the distances and ramp up the energy and effort it takes to protect as many people, you're going to have some who are, while gooder than good, yeah, you're going to have some who are going to fall off on the wayside. For example, the local farmer is going to say, hey, I need to put food away to feed my family. There's a war coming. And so we need to stock up. We need to get our, get our harvest done, get our food away, survive through the winter, and just hope that this war passes us by. Whereas the king may say, listen, we need to take your food to feed our troops to defend our land against the evil horde that's coming to destroy us all, and we need your food to do it. I understand you may not survive through the winter, their small farming group community, but we have 50,000 people we need to feed and protect, and soldiers. If we don't feed them and protect them and have them ready to fight this evil horde, you may die. And and then you start to ramp this up a little bit more. There are angelic beings may see things through a time standard that humanity, the common person, may not understand as well. Fantasy Grounds College says, I like the show. It's more real and less fluff and no corporate motivations. I haven't sold out quite yet. Yeah. No, but yeah, dude, we're here just to like basically talk off the top of our heads. It's that waiting for the pizza before the game starts at the gaming table. That's kind of what this channel is all about, man. So thank you very much. Ricker says, it sucks if you're the few when the angel shows up to give you the message that your number's up. Sorry, you got that right. Yeah, right. So and think about that. We see that in our own lives where, hey, if you're one of the blessed people, and when I say blessed, I don't mean just through faith. I'm talking about money, space, wherever you live. If you're one of the blessed people, yeah, you don't mind the few that are cut off you don't mind the crust being cut off the sandwich, if you follow my saying, right? You get the fat cut off the edge of the meat. Like for you, they're like, well, hey, I'm not the gristle, I'm the meat, right? And so it doesn't bother you. But when you are one of the faithful and all of a sudden you end up being put into that position where you're the expendable, it doesn't feel too good, right? It really doesn't feel too good. Oh man. Yeah, and so I definitely agree with you, Rickard. Vince, what's going on, man? Yeah, we're talking about angels and celestials this time, and glad you could be here. I understand real life takes precedent. Yeah, Rickard says lots of fluff here. Ask the squirrel, the tales can tell. Man, we could have a whole session about just what the squirrel likes to go towards. Make that a whole subject itself. But so but how do we use them, right? So a typical trope is low-level party adventurers without much skill or power. They get themselves into a deep situation, and lo and behold, a great evil spreading across the land, and one or more angelic beings show up, and they're the Deus ex machina. They are they come out of nowhere, solve the problem, thank the players for what they've done, and then they leave, right? And while Oh man, yep. Uh, uh, Sorry, I was reading in the chat as well. So we really don't want to do that more than, I don't know, once in an entire role playing career. Uh, Basically because you really don't want them to be the easy out, right? You don't want them to, when the players screw up your world and start a maelstrom of evil and open up a portal to the lower the abyss or the lower hells or something, and you want to stop it. Yeah, you don't want the angels to come in and like solve the problem that the players created that you set up in the first place, right? Hey Dante, what's going on here? Best clickbait cover photo ever. Yeah, I did it on purpose, guy. Yeah, oh yeah, all week you're gonna see the scantily clad angelic women in the thumbnail. So yeah. Oh, I'm very aware. I'm very aware, man. Um, Vince says, did I talk about the true descriptions of angels in the Bible? We brought it up in the fact that the descriptions in the Bible do not match the pop culture's version of what an angel looks like. Now we do have the very muscular, kind of androgynous, golden glowing individual. We also have cherubs, little babies with wings and such. We do have a little bit of that, but if you actually take a look at some of the biblical descriptions of angels, they're pretty nasty, and so you can definitely play that out. Fantasy grounds, don't play that card out. Nah, I know. I did. It's it, I use Canva for my thumbnails, and when you type in, you can type in certain words to look up certain images and things. And honestly, those were some of the few. Although there's a thumbnail with like there's lots of angels that are bas relief and statues located around the world. So I used a couple of those too. So yeah, I none of them are you know, bent over or anything like that. Yeah, don't relax, guys. Yeah, not really. Vince says angels are great tragic figures. In the Bible, they're described as defending a territory against other spiritual beings. Now, one thing that we can really play with when it comes to using celestial beings is that within their own world, morally they are not morally ambiguous, right? You get a lawful good, neutral good, a chaotic good, angelic being. Their first couple of minutes in our world, they're pretty much they're they are very hard to sway. Right? You get a lawful good angel that comes down and starts spouting out their mission and things. It's very hard for us mortal beings to convince them that the world is gray. It's made up of shades of gray, right? But one of the things that we can do, and I would even say that within Ravnica here, a Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which is filled with angelic beings that walk around the city, is that it's possible that some angelic beings have been on a mission for so long that they become air quotes corrupted by living in the prime material plane, the real world, commensurating amongst the population, and start questioning their mission. You know, the angels that come to our world that no longer are able to communicate with the beings that have given them the directions in the first place. They may start falling for human beings and having a heart, a care, being able to see it, you know, instead of seeing the bigger picture, they start seeing the ramifications of the smaller picture, and maybe their motivations start changing. Um, oh, Vince. Okay. Fantasy Grounds College says, "Oh, we can look beyond the physical appearance and delve deeper into what they do, or how they're recognized, or what for." And I'm thinking, reading that you're saying like they could, depending on what their function is, um, in the uh, in the celestial scope, they may not look like warriors, or they may not look like glowing, helpful beings. Of course, many of them can shape change. Some may be necessary to deliver messages, or like a look behind the curtain of sorts. Maybe they are the mechanisms that keep the world going. And while it's necessary to have evil and the seven deadly sins rampaging around the world, they are there to lend us a helping hand. And so you could have an adventure where the players already know that their job is to find a key, and that key could be a physical key, it could be a ritual, there could be an angelic being trapped somewhere or needs to be summoned or called forth to do battle with a great evil that's spreading across the land. And so your low-level players may not be, while we want to focus our attention on the players, they may not be the giant movers or shakers, but they might be the small people who are able to put the cog back into place to get the mechanism going again. So while evil is rampaging along across the world, maybe the players are not supposed to confront it directly, but to, like throwing the ring into back into the forge that it was created from, the players may need to take the MacGuffin to a location to free one or open a portal to one or more angels or to a celestial plane or whatnot. And then those beings come out. And if it wasn't for the player characters, there would be no angels fighting demons in the world, kind of thing. Yeah, Vince has lots of unique angels in a Magic the Gathering. For example, there's a ton. If you need images and you need some background, just type in Magic the Gathering angels and you'll find a ton of excellent artwork that's been created. I love that oil painting style artwork anyway for them. Fantasy Ground. Yeah. Dead Man brings up the movie Legion for getting where an angel is a villain. There's another movie, Prophecy is a great one. Christopher Walken plays a pretty nasty angel. And let's not forget the movie Constantine as well. Sometimes these movies aren't executed quite well, but again, there was a television show about angels and demons too. There was a teenager, I can't remember. Vince says angels could also be enemies. Maybe they have to guard a place or a person the PCs need to get to. And this is where I think we can start using good creatures as enemies, because most of the time, just off the top of our heads, we want to introduce a good creature. A lot of times we're saying, when the players confront or have conflict with a good creature, usually we think of it as a misunderstanding. Angelic being thinks evil people are in village. PCs fight their way to defend the people in the village, to fight the angel, and to convince the angel, hey, not everyone here is evil. There's only a few of the evil people. Please don't wipe us out. And so we kind of think of it as like, well, it's a misunderstanding. But if we look at the scope of what angelic beings are doing, for example, in 1,000-Year War, the angels may say, okay, we need to wipe out all humanity is bordering on the field of battle when we're going to fight evil, and everybody here has got to move. And if you don't move, we're going to have to make you move, right? And while the human beings live there 60 or 70 or 80 years, over 1,000 years, the angelic beings might be like, listen, you're like small potatoes for what we have to do. And we're really tired of trying to convince you people to move and get out of here. So we're just going to come down and just scour the landscape because we need this for our battlefield, right? They may not ask permission to do what they want to do. So again, angels as bad guys, they might be on a mission that the player characters are unaware of or cannot perceive of, or the mission itself may be so far above the scope of the players that they are the small potatoes. They are the victims of what may happen. They are the ones they are the proverbial farmers who have to harvest the fields to feed their people, whereas the angelic beings are like, no, we need to burn the crops down so that our enemy can't get to them. And for humanity and their souls, angels may look at humanity as the fields that feed evil, if that makes sense. Every human soul or humanoid soul could be a soul that could be corrupted and turned to evil. And in their eyes, they may say, well, if we wipe out those souls and make them pass on now before they can become corrupted, that's less power for evil to take part in. And of course, the player characters are like, wait a minute, that sounds good, except you want to kill me? Okay, we're gonna have to do something about this. Oh man. Dante says, for a good story example, look up Selenia, Dark Angel, Magic the Gathering. She was my favorite. Yeah, definitely take a look at, despite the fact it's a card game, there's quite a bit of background in the card game. So yeah, Magic the Gathering, and of course we do know that there is a that with a book like Ravnica, the meeting of the two, of course, is a great thing for all of us, especially the artwork. I love it. Vince says, well, there's always a difference between good and exalted good. Compromises can be hard for purely good beings. And a lot of times that's where the conflict can come in. If where one angel compromises their mission versus the other angels that are so like focused so hard on it that they don't see the damage they're doing, which is basically what the movie Prophecy and Constantine was about, right? In the movie, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Constantine, it's so old now anyway. It's what, 15 years old, possibly. Anyway, in the movie Constantine, the angel Gabriel wants to awaken essentially the Antichrist so that bringing hell upon earth will make more people who have fallen away from looking up into the divine, looking up into the sky and looking to God, that if evil is released on earth, people will become more faithful and they won't become as they will pick up their Bibles again. And so we've seen that the same thing in Prophecy as well, where I can't remember all the angels' names, but there was a conflict between the angels that came down to earth. Although I love the fact that they all wore black coats and perched up on the top of chairs when they sat down. But anyway, in that, again, one of the angels wanted to blow the trumpet that would bring about essentially the equivalent of the Norse Ragnarok, the battle between good and evil on earth. And one of the other angels was trying to stop the angel from blowing the trumpet. And of course, since they fell to earth, they couldn't hear it. To them, they were deaf. They couldn't hear the call of God in their mission. So all they had was what they, their own independence, and they had never had independence before. Vince says, well, I'm Christian, so yeah, I had such experience. So I'm sorry. Fantasy Grounds College says, has anyone up in here felt maybe or saw, sorry, Sophie, you can't join us today. Or maybe thought they might have sensed something angelic or supernatural? And Vince says, well, I'm Christian, so yeah, I had such experiences, not angels directly, but God's presence for sure. And in terms of our real interactions and angelic ones, a lot of times it's the subtle things I think that we overlook as well, in terms of including them in our role-playing games. Having someone visit someone in their dreams, or lucid dreams when someone's taking a nap, or gazing off into the world and just being one with like a soft breeze and the morning dew and the rising sun or something. And it's possible that one or more of the player characters may actually receive a message or an image or see something. That's all right, Rickard. They may see something and be given a motivation to perform some kind of act. I mean, why not have, instead of the trope of all the player characters going into a tavern and meeting the quest giver, why wouldn't the druid or the cleric or the paladin or the non-religious character get a vision to go somewhere or to perform some act and to be guided along their way by an angelic being who, drops some sort of clues for them along their path, because the angelic being cannot get involved, or is restricted from getting involved, or might be punished if they did get involved. You know what I mean? Okay, so Rickard says this is going to be a five-parter, which is fine. I'm going to get to it once you finish here. Dante says the Netflix show, which used to be on regular television, but is continued onto Netflix, says the Netflix show Lucifer is an awesome buddy cop drama that features the Christian pantheon in modern LA, which is, I haven't seen the show, but I hear it's quite tongue-in-cheek and rather funny, and I think that's awesome too. Vince says, for me, it's usually more about pictures I receive or miracles happening. I'm not a strongly emotional person. My sister is more like this, and again, some of us may feel that we receive impressions in different manners, whether it's through music or speaking to someone or reminiscing about something. So, okay, so here we go. Fantasy Grounds College says, I strongly believe that this hobby brings people together despite our differences. This is a major reason I love this hobby. Yeah, I'm with you there. Me too. There's some people I would have never met, interacted with at all if it wasn't for this hobby. So yeah, thumbs up to that. So Rickard says, the angels show up and aids the PCs in defending a town just as things start looking grim. After half the town was slaughtered, just as one of the houses near the temple is about to get destroyed. Later, one of the angels joins forces with the now high-level PCs to take out a cult, as they need to cleanse an artifact that the cult got a hold of. All right. Okay, so then he goes on to say, PCs start to hear a rumor of a town that was destroyed by angels. If investigated, the PC finds a person from the first town now rules the nation as the king or queen, king or queen died in the attack. The angels seem to aid this person as they plunge the kingdom into civil war with all the horrors that come with it. And lastly, turns out the resulting war and the angels' plan would give them an edge over the demons and devils that would turn the cosmic order in favor of the good material plane be damned. And that, dude, I love that. The thing is that sometimes, we're pretty arrogant individuals as a whole, as a humanity, both in and out of the game, right? We're pretty arrogant because we're very self-centered. And when it comes to goodness and the greater world, we think that we know how it operates, right? That, oh, well, if I see an angel, it's definitely going to help me out and help me and mine out, right? The angels aren't going to use me as cannon fodder or bait or sacrifice me in any way, because I'm important to this angelic being, because I see them and it communicated with me. And as opposed to, being instructed by an angel to literally, like Rickard says, plunge a whole world into chaos and death and destruction, because maybe the angelic beings know, hey, three generations from now, this countryside will be united under one banner. And what way to martyr yourself as a goodly being, to plunge a world into darkness and have everyone band together to basically hate you. And maybe that will be a bulwark, a vanguard against the coming evil 350 years from now, right? That could be a thing. Deadman brings up, there's also a show Dominion on Sci-Fi. Yes, I forgot about the name of that show. Dominion on Sci-Fi. I think there was is that the one where there's a city called Vega? The world's been decimated by the battle between angels and demons, and Las Vegas becomes a city known as Vega that's surrounded by 500-foot walls or something. I can't remember. Oh, Tesla, stop it. The Battlestar Galactica reboot, yeah, with angels. None of us liked that last season. Sorry. Yes, I'm speaking for everyone. Vince talking about her, his sister says she had situations where she could not breathe anymore in specific places until she left, for example. Probably whether that's, I mean, who knows why, the reason that could be, but who's to say that that isn't an impression that people get based on where they're at, whether things have happened in the past there, and there's like a remnants of, death and destruction, or maybe there's a specially blessed locations in and around our own world and in our fantasy worlds where the goodly people should come here for protection or something of something of that nature. Dante says Lucifer is bloody brilliant. Angels could be a backbone to a magic caster whose spells are actually angelic interventions. I like that idea. So instead of being a cleric and just, I'm just going to lay on hands, or I don't know, I cast a blast spell, when they instead of them casting a spell, your cleric could be closing their eyes and asking for angelic interference, and an angel may come down to wrap their arms around the injured party, or to when a bless is cast upon the party members, an angel hovers over their shoulder, just moving them out the way, or moving their sword in a certain manner, or a single fingertip comes down and alights their shoulder, and they they glow with a divine power or something like that. Absolutely can use that. Yeah, like warlocks. Yeah, Fantasy Grounds brings up, yeah, like warlocks. There are celestial warlocks. I think the word warlock is probably a misnomer. I think they could probably be not oath takers. It's hard to come up with another word other than warlocks, but there are celestial pack warlocks as well. Fantasy Grounds College. Oh, I'm sorry. Tesla says the game In Nomine. Ooh, that's a blast from the past. Uses a D666 mechanic. If an angelic character rolls triple ones, it's good for him, bad for demons. It's the opposite for demonic characters who tried to roll triple sixes. Oh, I didn't know that. I never knew what the mechanic was, but I remember In Nomine. I don't know how popular it was, but I know there's a hardcore group of people who love that game. Got to look that one up again. Maybe dig that one out of the crates, eBay or something. Yeah, In Nomine, the D666 mechanic. That's crazy. Fantasy Grounds College thinks, I think this show is the hand of angelic beings to bring us together to be good with one another, to challenge the typical day-to-day drudgery and stereotypes. I don't know if I would maybe I could be an agent of that. But sure, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll embrace that. Tesla Ranger says angels in Sharon Shim's Samaria series are genetically engineered from human stock, have wings and can fly, and are the only ones who can call upon their God to grant such things as weather control, healing medicine, or holy lightning, which are actually particle beam weapons, since God, air quotes, is actually a spaceship orbiting the planet. Okay, all right, listen, Tesla. We were going to get to that on Friday and future Friday, but we're going to keep that in our back pocket. So yes, absolutely. Who's to say that there aren't? You don't necessarily have to have God or the gods and classic angels. They could be created from science. They could be just another race of beings, albeit very powerful. But who's to say that they just aren't another race? If we take a look at Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor in the movies is an alien from another planet, and they just happen to have science that is so far advanced it's basically magic, right? He's not an actual god. He's actually just an alien that is worshipped because of their interaction by coming to ancient man on Earth. Vincent says, in my sister's case, this was during a ritual in a Christian church, no apostles or apostolites, where they tried to pray the souls of their loved ones into heaven, something she does not believe in. Really? That's another thing that we often overlook, that just in our fantasy worlds, just because a character is, say, like a cleric, a faithful, does not mean that the angels will respond to them. Just as a unfaithful person, it doesn't mean that angels will not interact with them either. A person who does not believe it doesn't necessarily mean that they will never have interaction with divine beings, right? There are plenty of cases where divine beings call upon the worst people in the world. The Bible or and other religions are full of that, where some of the worst people in the world, the unbelievers, are tasked with giving commands or look upon people who are like, yeah, you don't believe in me, but you don't need to. We angelic beings do exist, and we need you to do this one thing for us, right? um, Dante says angels and demons working together to travel the stars was the background for the Pathfinder campaign I ran. Also, maybe a subject for Friday if I'm awake. Yeah, not a problem, man. Vince, gotta go. All right, man. Vince, have a great one. See you. Thank you for just popping on in. You're always welcome, dude. Yeah. I miss our panels that we did with our world building series, man. But again, using them as bad guys in our bad guys. Bad term, using them as adversaries in our gaming in our gaming world is possible, especially if you take away the idea that they are a monolith, that they all act the exact same way. Certain angels might have certain functions, and when they come to our world, our fantasy world, our prime material plane, their function, their mission might be disrupted by the things that they see. Fighting amongst the upper planes or the outer planes or an astral plane is no big deal for them. But if their damage starts to harm humanity, one or more of the angels might be thinking like, why are we fighting this war if all we're doing is slaughtering the people that we were intended to protect? And if you have a planar, a solar, that's the head of this army of devas or whatever, divas, it might say, listen, you're going to have to harden your heart. We've got to fight off this evil. And so it's a possibility that, fallen angels have come here, not fallen, but angels on a mission cannot return. And they might end up being the movers and shakers in your world, being the heads of cults, being the heads of a paladin's order or a religious order or something like that. And the PCs may end up finding that out and like, oh, wait a minute, we might have to take them down, which might completely destroy the basis of a religion in your world. Undo, what's going on there? Says it's hard not to believe when there are tangible angels in the world. I prefer the unique scenario where a believer hates his gods because they acted in a way that affected him negatively and could not comprehend. Which is, a lot of. I'm with you, Undo. In fantasy worlds, there really isn't the word unbeliever or is not really appropriate. Much like when we talk about like the Greek and Roman gods and people holding their fist up into the heavens, a lot of times what it is are basically humanity not giving respect to these powerful beings as opposed to not believing in them. And I think maybe that's just a bad descriptor. It's not necessarily not believing in them, but not counting on them for your protection, not giving them any honor. It's more or less like, screw the gods. They don't help us out. They're doing things that harm my world, so F them, right? As opposed to not believing in them, Undo. So yeah, I'm with you on that. About preferring the scenario where a believer hates his gods because they acted in a way that they didn't like. As a matter of fact, one of the main characters in the movie Prophecy was a priest who felt the touch of God, and just as he was about to take his final vows to become a Catholic priest, God shut him out. He could not hear and feel that presence anymore, and so he basically hated his Catholic upbringing and religion in general, and became a detective, which was needed for him to become a detective who had the background of a Catholic priest to help study something that happened to him like 20 years later to help stop the oncoming apocalypse. So it is possible that one or more player characters could hate the gods because of the nasty things that they've done and nasty things that the angels have done in their name, only to act in the best interest of what the gods wanted in the first place, if that makes sense. Um, Dante says, yeah, fallen angels as monsters could be pretty rough, I bet. Super senses, flight, magic. A good plot point might be a bunch of fallen trying to stage a celestial coup from the material plane. Ooh, setting up their own world. Ooh, that might be nasty, especially if you take into the account that the players don't need to, of course, roll initiative and fight an angel at first level, right? You're going to have agents. They're going to end up recruiting agents, and so you could absolutely reskin, rename, reuse a ton of your monster manual creatures, a ton of agents in the world. For example, you could have a bunch of cutthroats and assassins, but maybe they have a tattoo or a branding or a mark of the celestial being, and the players might be like, wait a minute, they're assassins poisoning people and cutting people's throats, but why do they have the mark of a celestial being? Is there an assassins guild working in side by side with a church or something in your world? I mean, there could be, like you said, there could be a coup where these celestial beings are trying to take over, and maybe fiendish powers are trying to stop the angels from taking over the prime material plane by disrupting their endeavors, which might be kind of cool. And the players are now stuck in the middle of it. I like that idea. Yeah, Ricker says, to be fair, I don't get why people follow one god in fantasy settings. It makes more sense to be uh, polytheist, yeah, instead of monotheist, which is like one god or something like that. Yeah, pray to the god or goddess of nature when planting crops, god or goddess of the hunt when foraging. And as a matter of fact, and you know, what is it? There's a lot of common people do the lip service thing. Like they never pray to Neptune, so they don't capsize their boat until they're about to take a sailing trip, right? Why are you praying to the god of travel? Because I don't want to break my leg on this 500 mile trek, right? Which is, I wouldn't mind a player like a clerical player having being devoted to one of the gods, but being devoted to one of the gods and ignoring all the other ones, I think is not pretty. It's not organic. I don't want to say not realistic, but it's not organic. And why not have I think it makes perfect sense to have religious characters praying to a pantheon of gods, and maybe only certain abilities come from one or more of the gods. So, for example, the god of healing, a player character could offend the god of healing and then be restricted from gaining their healing abilities, but not be restricted from some of their other abilities, because those other abilities may come from some of the other gods. And as a matter of fact, why not Faulty Doombot? Hi. What's going on? It's a possibility that why not have some of the magical abilities come from, like when in your game your cleric wants to get their spells back, they could go off and pray and have like a dream sequence or something where an angelic being comes down and grants them some of their abilities, and they could have a conversation each day to this avatar of their religion that comes and talks to them, and that might be how they gain their abilities. Dante says, always imagine lantern archons as the celestial equivalent of a fairy, something like Navi from Zelda. I can agree with you. The if you take a look at some of the images, like the lantern archons and such, a lot of the angels are not. They're pretty bestial. I mean, there's a ton of what are the angels with the animal heads? Wolves and hawks, eagles, lions. Many angels have multiple sets of wings. I mean, there's a ton of them. So now another thing we can do is we can actually change the alignment of our angelic beings as well. either temporarily or fully from their lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good standards. A fallen angel may be on the way. Uh, a fallen angel might be on the way towards becoming a fiend, and the players might be in the middle of that fall. So who's to say that fiendish creatures are not trying to rise, and that the angelic creatures aren't falling at the exact same time, and the player characters are living in a world where that fall and rise is happening? So it could be some demonic or fiendish or devilish creatures are trying to escape their horror, escape their punishment, and regain some form of forgiveness, maybe to gain back their wings, either metaphorically or physically, to get their wings back, to find a fiendish creature going to find their halo, if it were. And then there could be an angel who fell from grace and lost their wings and lost their halo, and maybe is trying to give it away or sell it. Gave their wings and halo to someone else because they don't want it anymore. That'd be pretty nasty. Yeah, Dante says fallen cherubs, terrifying, screaming, flying death babies. There's a good monster. Oh man, that's nasty. You're so wrong. I don't want to change the diaper of a fallen cherub baby. Oh man. Rickard says, I feel we should probably bring up Morning Canaan in this discussion as well. Oh, Morning Canaan and his ever quest to balance the world, to balance the good and evil of the multiverse, whatnot. Yeah. A Faulty Doombot says angels as the bureaucracy of their god, created to do the legwork of their god. Yeah, and mind you, of course, again, angels and celestials do not need to be of a Christian flavor. They're just stat blocks, really. So you can arm them with whatever kind of weapons, or they don't have to have wings. They don't need to glow. They don't need to come from on high. You can create any kind of thing for them. I mean, for example, you could have celestial beings being the avatar of elemental beings from any of like the positive and negative material planes and whatnot. So they could just be an independent race of creatures. And of course, you can always make them the big bad. I mean, they are extremely powerful. Of course, tomorrow, I'm going to bring this up at the end here, but of course, tomorrow and within world building, you also have the issue of the how inflexible they are, and in their outlook. For example, you could have an angelic being that demands everyone in a particular community tell the truth, no matter how minor that truth is. And in our own world, while telling the truth is a good thing, sometimes telling people that their breath stinks, or that their child is ugly, or that, yeah, they do look fat in that dress, might not be the best thing to tell. Telling your boss that you do think that they suck, and that you did have you were coveting someone else's wife, might not be conducive to a rational society. But an angelic being could demand that of a community, to the point where it completely disrupts society. But the angel's like, oh, I did my work. As long as they're telling the truth, I'm done and I'm out. You know what I mean? Oh man. Oh, Dead Man says, are we talking Warhammer 40,000, 40K here? Yeah, it seems like it, right? It's pretty. The beings in 40K are pretty awful. Morning Canyon literally thought that if either side got too powerful, the mortal plane would be screwed. So at least one NPC wasn't too keen on angels getting too powerful. Yeah. Also, if the players are part of that mission, they might want to be careful, because the first time someone finds that out, and the side that's losing finds out that there's a group of people trying to keep the balance, you're going to get some enemies from both sides. Now, you could be part of a group that's like, look, we don't want either of you guys here. Like, if you want to fight, go fight in the astral plane. Don't do it here in my backyard, kind of thing, right? So that's a possibility as well, where maybe the PCs are trying to shut down the apertures that allow these beings to come here in the first place. Or maybe there's the unknown level 10 spell that can be cast to separate the prime material plane from the outer planes, and shut it down for 1,001 years. And if someone's able to read the ritual, they'll shut those beings out, and they could never come back for 1,001 years, and that could be a thing. um uh, uh Undo says, Angel bureaucracy. I'm sorry, we can't receive your PC friend. He's been relocated to another branch. His skills are needed elsewhere. I've been sent to provide some assistance in the meantime. Yeah, the angelic bureaucracy. Like, oh my goodness. If you just wait in line, take a ticket and wait in line, and you pick a ticket, and you're like, number 3, and your ticket's like 10,682. Yeah, just wait a little bit, just wait in line. Oh man. So anyway, guys, we always hit the hour mark. But anyway, this entire week we are going to talk about angels and celestials, using them in our games. Tips and tricks tomorrow, for Tips and Tricks Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, Third Pillar Thursday, Future Friday. So yeah, we're going to use these, come up with some great ideas, share them along. I want to thank Fantasy Grounds College and Fat Ninja DM, a faculty member there over at Fantasy Grounds College. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for joining in. Guys, if you don't know, Fantasy Grounds is available as a virtual tabletop. I just think it's, if you're looking for another option, join in. They admit that it is a steep learning curve to learn it, but it is extremely adaptable. So if you go over to Fantasy Grounds College, they will be more than helpful in getting you started in learning how to use Fantasy Grounds, which, by the way, is still around as an option to, versus Roll20 or D&D Beyond. Fantasy Grounds Unity is on its way now as well. What is that? Fantasy Grounds Unity? Not familiar with that. I know you can't post a link, but please post some information in there as well. Oh, thanks for the thumbs. I felt that from back here. I'm being bad. Anyway, but basically, check them out, guys. And of course, as always, please, thank you very much for always bringing the brilliance, bringing the love. All that kind of stuff. We're here just to be positive, to come up with great ideas, share them with everyone else. So thank you very much for that. Ricker says, Fantasy Grounds remade with the Unity engine. Think of it as Fantasy Grounds 2.0. Ooh, I'm going to have to look in that. Maybe do a little shout out to that, to them as well. So anyway, we here, we meaning me and me meaning us, are a wide-ranging group of people. So if you see someone in the chat and you're like, I think I know them, contact them, check them out. And as always, everyone, let's not measure our loves by our hates. That's just my little send out, my little salutation. And later on, you'll see next to my face some clickables. You don't see them right now, but they will be there when this finally renders. Click them on, like, share, subscribe, whatever. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're in the States, it's hella early. We go live each day, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, my time. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great one, and see ya. Bye. Wow. Awesome.